Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going over tonight's Miami Heat game and a post-game recap and analysis. Before we get started, please drop a quick like and a sub on today's video. That would really help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate that. Also, if you haven't checked out my other channel, my main channel, ACB Sports, go check that out. The link will be down below in the description. And with that said, I hope you enjoy the video and let's dive right into it. So big win for the Miami Heat. They moved to 20-18 on the season. They're going to move into fourth place in the Eastern Conference, half game in front of the Celtics with the win tonight against the Chicago Bulls. So let's just talk about the game. I mean, Heat won 101-90. So big win for them. It was a close game though through most of the game. I mean, it wasn't necessarily back and forth, but it was tight. The Heat didn't really get out to any big leads. Chicago was trailing for most of the game, but it was close. It was within 4 points for most of the game. Then in that fourth quarter, the Heat and Goran Dragic, you can see jersey just over my shoulder, really took over. So throughout most of the game, I mean, it was bad shooting, and it was bad shooting for both teams. I mean, the Heat ended up shooting 46.3% from the field. That was mainly due to a very good fourth quarter where they shot the ball very well, but overall, they were not great, especially in the first three quarters. Their second quarter, they scored about like 15 points. And then if we look at the Bulls, they were held to under 40% shooting too. And when we look at the Miami Heat against teams where they hold them to under 40% shooting, they're very, very, very successful in those games. So that was that too. The Bulls did shoot better from three-point land. The Heat had a very cold streak in the second quarter where, as I said, I mean, that second quarter was just brutal for them. But in the first quarter, they started off hot. They didn't continue that into the second quarter. But nonetheless, they still got the win, so that's what's really important for the Miami Heat. At half, it was 42-42, but, in the fourth quarter when Goran Dragic, stepped up, took some time, he was absolutely lights out. He became also the all-time leader in 20-point games off the bench. He's the Heat's sixth man, and he did a really good job off the bench in today's game nonetheless. Other stats to look at just for a sec, if you look at the turnover and steals differential as well as the amount of free throws that each team took, those are three big aspects of the game that you really want to take a look at for a sec. The turnovers were 16-9 in favor of Miami. They had 9 turnovers. The Chicago had 16. And then, when we look at steals, Chicago only had 5 compared to the Heat's 11. So the Heat weren't turning the ball over as much, and they were being a lot better on defense too, getting steals. So overall, the Heat's defensive intensity was another big reason why they won. This was the third game in a row that no Bam Adebayo. He's out with tendonitis in his knee. But nonetheless, I mean, the Heat were still able to get it done. And it started with Jimmy Butler early on. He ended the game with 28 points off of 10 for 12 shooting from the foul line and 9 for 17 shooting from the field. He also added 8 assists and 3 rebounds. All around, really good game for him. He also had 4 steals, which didn't end up leading, which actually did end up leading the Heat. So really good job by him. He's always the leader. He's the guy that really gets the Heat's offense going because he starts it with the defensive side of the floor, and then he's able to do it. That was again a story tonight. Kendrick Nunn, I thought, played pretty well, too. He only had 10 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals, 2 rebounds. But I thought he played really well in that first quarter, really got the Heat off to a strong start. I think he had 8 first-quarter points, cooled off as the game progressed. But nonetheless, him and Butler were really big in that first quarter, really getting the Heat going. Another guy that I thought played really well, we'll get to Goran Dragic in a second, who obviously was fantastic, but Duncan Robinson from three-point land. He had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 assists off 5 for 8 shooting from downtown and 5 for 9 shooting from the field. I thought he played really well too. Limitless range, really high intensity, good 3-point scorer. And another thing I thought about Duncan Robinson, and we've seen this throughout the season from the Miami Heat, and especially Duncan Robinson, is he's really picked up his game on the defense side of the floor. I mean, he had 3 steals in this one, and he's continuing to get better on the defense side of the floor. Last year, we saw him being a real defensive liability for the Miami Heat, but this offseason, he really worked on that, and I think that's something that he's gotten a lot better at. And then, of course, Goran Dragic. He came alive in the fourth quarter, finished the game with 25 points, 20 which came in that fourth quarter, and wow, he was fantastic. He was constantly making shots. He finished the game 9 for 15 from the field, 4 for 8 from downtown, and 3 for 4 from the line. He also added 5 assists and 7 rebounds, and he constantly was getting to that foul line in that fourth quarter, really helping the Heat close that game out. And it kind of took some of the pressure off a guy like Jimmy Butler, who we've seen over the past few games, and since his time in the Miami Heat organization, he's been the finisher. He's been the main guy to go out and get those free throws and just be that the bruiser towards the end of the game. In today's game, that wasn't really the case. Goran Dragic was able to get that done, so that's a good thing for Jimmy Butler, giving him almost a night off. He still scored 28 points and was a huge player on the floor, but nonetheless, good job by Goran Dragic coming in clutch towards the end of the game. Another guy I want to look at was Tyler Hero. I mean, Tyler Hero really struggled in today's game. Only had 4 points, 4 rebounds, and assists off 1 for 7 shooting in 23 minutes. We did see him, get some time on the court towards the end of the game. Was part of that closing lineup. But nonetheless, Tyler Hero is a weird guy for me. I mean, I really like watching him play. He's super exciting, but at the same time, he's such a volatile scorer. You don't know if he's going to be on or off. He can be somewhere in between, and he's volatile. He's not consistent. That's something that he needs to work on for the Miami Heat. But nonetheless, overall, really good win for the Heat. They moved to 20-18, and they move into 4th place in the East. Now, though, let's turn it over to the Chicago Bulls. So for the Chicago Bulls, it was a continuation of, Zach LaVine's breakout year. I mean, he's been fantastic all season. Today was no exception. 10 for 16 shooting, 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. Was that, physical player, dynamic scorer for this Bulls team. Really carried them throughout the game. And then behind him, Lauri Markannen as well as Thaddeus Young were 2 big scorers. I mean, Markannen had 20 points, 5 defensive rebounds, 6 total rebounds, 2 assists, as well as, 4 for 10 shooting from downtown and 8 for 18 shooting overall. Young was another good player. He was probably their 3rd best player in today's game. 13 points, 10 boards, 6 rebounds. 10 rebounds. I just said 10 rebounds off 6 for 13 shooting. So those were the 3 big guys, but the real problem for the Chicago Bulls is they didn't really have any balanced scoring behind them. And when you're talking about the Miami Heat, that's something that the Miami Heat do really well. They have balanced scoring behind their big time players. And we saw Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn have some of that, off the bench scoring. That wasn't there for the Bulls, and that's been a problem with them throughout some of the season. But more importantly, they didn't get to the line at all either. They only got to the line 7 times. Yeah, they went 7 for 7 at the line, but the Heat got to the line 20 times. So you can really see the difference in that regard. And, the Chicago Bulls throughout the season have been next to last in the NBA in that category of getting to the line. So that's a real problem for them. But overall, I thought, both teams really didn't shoot the ball that well, especially in that first half. Only 42 points for each team in the first half. The offense picked it up in the second half, but really Goran Dragic closing out the game was massive for the Miami Heat. And when we look at the star from today's game for the Miami Heat, it's got to be Goran Dragic. He was absolutely fantastic. Didn't even lead the team in points, but his intensity in that 4th quarter and towards the end of the game really helped close it out for the Heat. So overall, really big win for the Miami Heat. They'll move once again to 20-18, and the Bulls will drop to 16-20. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis and my pick? What did you think about today's game? And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and a sub, and until next time, see ya.